Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast. Today is St. Patrick's Day, March 17th, 2020. Today I'm going to talk about the latest with Tom Brady and what's next for him, other NFL moves that have taken place since I last recorded, coronavirus update, and a golf update at the end of the show. All right, I'm going to start with Tom Brady. He made a social media post this morning on Twitter and Instagram that he has played his last game as a member of the New England Patriots. It was a heartwarming note that he sent out to the fans of the Patriots and to the media and everything. And I'm happy that he did this on his own and didn't get leaked by the media. He tweets out in capital letters, "Forever Patriot," and "Love you, Pats Nation." To all my teammates, coaches, executives, and staff, Coach Belichick, Art KK, and the Kraft family and the entire organization, I want to say thank you for the past 20 years of my life and the daily commitment to winning and creating a winning culture built on great values. I am grateful for all that you have taught me. I have learned from everyone. You have all allowed me to maximize my potential, and that is all a player can ever hope for. Everything we have accomplished brings me great joy, and the lessons I have learned will carry on with me forever. I couldn't be the man I am today without the relationships you have allowed me to build with you. I have benefited from all you have given me. I cherished every opportunity I had a part to be of our own team, and I love you all for that. Our team has always set a great standard in pro sports, and I know it will continue to do just that. Although my football journey will take place elsewhere, I appreciate everything that we have achieved and am grateful for our incredible team accomplishments. I have been privileged to have had the opportunity to know each other and every one of you and have the memories we've created together. I want to say thank you to all the incredible fans and Patriots supporters. Massachusetts has been my home for 20 years. It has truly been the happiest 2 decades I could envision in my life, and I have nothing but love and gratitude for my time in New England. The support has been overwhelming. I wish every player could experience it. My children were born and raised here, and you always embrace this California kid as your own. I love your commitment and loyalty to your teams, and winning for our city means the more than you'll ever know. I can't thank you enough for supporting our team, the packed training camps and sold-out stadiums, and mostly the victory parades. I have been so blessed to share them all with you. I tried to represent us always in the best and most honorable way, and I fought hard with my teammates to help bring victory and triumph, even in the most dire situations. You opened your heart to me, I opened my heart to you. And Pats Nation will always be a part of me. I don't know where my football future holds, but it is time for me to open a new stage for my life and career. I thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I will always love you and what we have shared, a lifetime full of fun memories. So an excellent tribute / statement by Tom Brady, the best quarterback that's ever played this game, in my opinion. And now the question is, what's next? Let's start with the side of Tom Brady. There's a rumor that came out, and Colin Cowherd has also said it, that it's a done deal that he's going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I need to see it from Adam Schefter, and I need to see it saying that Tom Brady has agreed to terms with whomever he signs with before I believe anything. Colin Cowherd also was the same guy that said that Kevin Durant to the New York Knicks was a done deal. So I wouldn't trust Colin Cowherd. As good as a host he is, and as much as I respect him for what he does, I'm not buying it unless it comes from Adam Schefter, Ian Rappaport, or the underrated Jay Glazer. So, I'm not sold on the Bucs thing yet. They are a big favorite to land Tom Brady. They were minus 290 at one point. Then it went down to plus 125, and a lot of people were speculating on the Chargers. A lot of players are saying the Chargers, and then the media is saying the Bucs. And then the best member of the media in terms of the NFL, in my opinion. Adam Schefter came out and said that more teams will be involved, and a team he mentioned is the Miami Dolphins, who have a lot of cap room. The speculation is that they want to draft Tua Tagovailoa in the draft. There's rumors about them moving up. And now Schefter says that they're involved in Tom Brady. If he goes there, combined with all the other signings they have made, they might be a wild card team in the AFC East. I'm not saying that they're going to win the division because I really like the Bills and what they've done. I'm going to talk about them in a couple minutes. But if Tom Brady went there, that'd be an absolute stunner. And I think that would make the Dolphins a contender for the wild card, for one of the 3 wild cards. Don't forget that each conference gets one more wild card team this year. It makes them a contender for that. So like maybe like an 8 and 8, 9 and 7, 10 and 6 type of thing. So keep an eye out for Miami. I wouldn't say that anything's guaranteed yet involving Tom Brady. And then the Chargers, a lot of people think that he may end up there, like I do. They've made a lot of moves to really set themselves up for this moment, just like the Brooklyn Nets went up and set themselves up to sign Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving this past summer. Like, you trade for Trey Turner, you franchise tag Hunter Henry, you extend Austin Eckler. By the way, I think that Melvin Gordon's out the door. I think that he'll probably be a Miami Dolphin or go somewhere that has cap room. Although they did sign Jordan Howard, but he's not a starting caliber running back in my mind. Like, he had a good year with the Bears that one year, but I just don't see him as like a top tier guy. I look at Melvin Gordon like that though. So it should be interesting to see what Tom Brady does. I do think could very well be the Chargers. It could very well be the Bucs, but part of me still thinks it's going to be Los Angeles, and I do think that he wants to be in a big market for sure. Now I'm going to discuss what other teams are going to do and what's up. I'm going to start with Tom Brady's former team, the New England Patriots. What's next for them? Obviously, no Tom Brady. They're going to have a downgrade at quarterback no matter what. Maybe they pull off a trade for somebody. Jacoby Brissett, who I predicted on the show yesterday. Andy Dalton's available. Cam Newton's the newest quarterback name to be available for trade. Maybe he goes there. So, if I had to make my bet right now, it's Jacoby Brissett. That's the starting quarterback for the New England Patriots. Because we're going to talk about what the Colts did today in a couple of minutes. The New York Jets really were quiet for the most part, but they did make a signing. They signed George Fant, 3 years, $30 million. He is somebody that an offensive tackle. That was a need for the Jets. He was somebody that was solid for the Seahawks last year. And they also signed Alex Lewis to a 3-year deal worth $18.6 million. So the Jets make some moves on the offensive line. I still think they need an edge rusher. They can use a corner. A wide receiver, absolutely. So I think the Jets still have a lot of work to do. The Bills made what I thought was the best move in the division so far, which was trading for Stephon Diggs from the Minnesota Vikings. He'll immediately become the number one guy there, as they sent Minnesota a first-round pick, a fifth-round pick, a sixth-round pick, and a 2021 fourth-round pick. I think Minnesota got good value for Stephon Diggs. I'll talk about the Vikings in a couple minutes, but this is a great trade for the Bills. I think this puts them in the driver's seat with the news about Brady leaving. Puts them in the driver's seat as the favorites to win the AFC East. So a very, very, very good day for the Buffalo Bills and a good night for them last night as well. The Dolphins I talked about a little bit. They are a dark horse team in the Tom Brady Derby. They made a lot of signings. They signed Byron Jones, 5 years, $85.5 million. That brings a huge upgrade in their secondary. So maybe the Dolphins are going for it after tanking last year. They've been the biggest spenders so far. So 5 years, $82.5 million for Byron Jones. Kyle Van Noy, 4 years, $51 million. Obviously, Van Noy was a Patriot, and Brian Flores is now the Patriots coach, or the Dolphins coach. Shaq Lawson, 3 years, $30 million, the former Buffalo Bill. Eric Fowler's 3 years, $30 million. Talked about that yesterday. He had a career year last year for Washington and got paid. And Emmanuel Agba, 2 years, $15 million. So a lot of signings for the Dolphins. I thought the best one was definitely Jones. He's certainly an upgrade in their secondary. And also Miami has 3 first-round picks, a good second, and another second. So 5 picks in the first 2 rounds of the draft. So they are in a great, great spot right now. And obviously, they're a team that surprised many last year by winning as many games as they did. A lot of people thought there was a chance that they'd go 0-16 or 2-14, but they did not. And they really surprised everybody. And that's credit to Brian Flores. So that's that with the Dolphins. The AFC North, the Pittsburgh Steelers, they franchise tagged Bud Dupree the other day. They did make a signing. Derek Watt, the fullback's going to Pittsburgh, so they have Derek Watt and TJ Watt there right now. 3 years, $9.75 million. So that's a nice signing for the Steelers. Ramon Foster retired, so now they have a hole on their offensive line. The Steelers brought back punter or long snapper Cam Canaday, 2-year deal. They got rid of Anthony Chiquilo. They released them. So I think the Steelers have some moves to do. They obviously have to make an upgrade in their secondary. I think that's their biggest need. The Browns made a lot of moves yesterday, including the tight end Austin Hooper. 4 years, $44 million, I believe. The deal was, or 4 years, $52 million, something crazy like that. They also signed Jack Conklin, the former Tennessee Titans offensive lineman. So that's a good signing by the Cleveland Browns after I thought the Austin Hooper one was a massive overpay. They signed Case Keenum to a 3-year deal. He's obviously going to be the backup to Baker Mayfield. I hate that it's a 3-year deal because I think Case Keenum is not that good. He's a journeyman for a reason. But the Stefanski connection from Minnesota is what makes that signing make sense. The Bengals made some interesting moves today. They signed former Minnesota Vikings cornerback Trey Waynes, 3 years, $42 million. I think that is a nice signing for Cincinnati. Got to hand it to the Bengals a little bit because they are really improving themselves, and obviously they're going to draft Joe Burrow. So I really think that they want to try to win. So good for them. And they also signed DJ Reader, 4 years, $53 million, or agreed to a deal with him. That's another nice signing. Obviously, Reader was from the Texans. So the Bengals make 2 significant upgrades on defense. I think that they need help on the offensive line. Obviously, they still have a Dalton trade potentially. Maybe they can get some value back for Dalton for a team that's desperate for a quarterback like New England or somebody like that. Or Chicago. Somebody might overpay for Andy Dalton. So, I think Cincinnati here is in a good position and could potentially surprise folks this season. And the Baltimore Ravens made a couple interesting moves in free agency to make themselves a better club. Obviously, they made the trade for Calais Campbell the other day. sending a 5th-round pick to Jacksonville. That was a absolute mega steal. They brought back Justin Ellis on a 1-year deal. Brandon Carter declining his options, so he's a free agent. Michael Brocker's got 3 years, $30 million. That was a nice signing for them. Brocker's obviously was from the Rams, so he'll help them on defense. So they're making themselves better, and they're obviously seeing their division making moves to make themselves better too. Obviously Cincinnati and the Browns. Steelers really haven't done anything yet, but I believe that they will because I believe in their general manager a lot. And so I think the Ravens are having a good offseason. The biggest AFC South news from today was that the Indianapolis Colts signed Phillip Rivers 1 year, $25 million. That one seemed inevitable. A lot of people called this months ago because of the connections with the head coach, Frank Wright, and then the offensive coordinator as well, who Rivers both worked with when he was with the Chargers. I think that this will help Rivers. A good offensive line, a lot of talent around. I like that the Colts did this on a 1-year deal because I still think it's not determined whether he's washed up or not. He could have been just a bad year in a bad situation with the Chargers. So, we'll see about that. There's a lot of good players on the team, which I think will help Rivers a lot. And I'm surprised that the Colts weren't in on Tom Brady. Because I think Tom Brady's looking for the same thing, a good offensive line and good talent around. And obviously the Colts made the big trade yesterday for DeForest Buckner, which improves their defense as well. The Texans made the worst move of the offseason so far by getting rid of DeAndre Hopkins for very little. Got a 2nd-round pick and a 4th-round pick. And David Johnson from Arizona. That was just a bad move. David Johnson's not that good anymore. He only had 1 good year in the NFL. I think he's probably the most overrated player in the NFL. He's really done nothing since that breakout 2016 season. So I just think that was a terrible move for Houston. And really their only good player right now is obviously Deshaun Watson, the quarterback. So I think they took a huge step back with the trading of DeAndre Hopkins yesterday. And they ended up signing Randall Cobb, 3 years, $27 million. That was a bad deal. Randall Cobb was good on the Packers, but he really didn't do anything on Dallas last year. So maybe being a number 2 receiver instead of a number 3 receiver may help him a little bit. I just thought he got a little bit overpaid. I would have gone like 2 years, $12 million for Randall Cobb at this stage of his career. The Tennessee Titans obviously re-signed Ryan Tannehill to the 4-year, $118 million contract. Risky by the Titans. I think they should have been in on Tom Brady and Phillip Rivers. I think they are better options right now than Ryan Tannehill. I just think that Tannehill was a flash in the pan. He might be the Trubisky of next year or the Bortles of 2 years ago. So, buyers beware, Tennessee Titans. And a good move by them franchise tagging Derrick Henry. Now they just got to pay him because he's obviously their best player. And he's the engine that keeps that team rolling. So, good on Tennessee for keeping Henry there another year. And I just don't like the overpayment for Ryan Tannehill. The Jaguars are on the board in free agency. They had agreed to terms with Joe Sherbert, 5 years, $53.75 million. That is crazy. Everybody was penciling them in for the tank for Trevor. Maybe not, because they went out and actually signed a free agent. Who did the Miami Dolphins sign as a free agent last year? Nobody. That's how you knew they were all in on the tank for Tua. So, who knows? Maybe the Jaguars want to win. So that's a good signing for them because they got rid of a lot of their dudes. And Darqueze Dennard's had in there as well. 3 years, $13.5 million, $6 million guaranteed. So I think that's a nice deal for Dennard. He's somebody that wasn't healthy these last couple years. So I think that the signing of Dennard, I think, could be a steal. Sherbert might be a little bit overpaid. from a contract perspective, obviously. And now there's a rumor at Lori Insider from Pardon My Take said that hearing New England is attempting to deal draft picks in exchange for Nick Foles. So that would be an interesting fit with New England. I don't know if that would work, but it worked in Philly, but it hasn't worked anywhere else for Foles. Wouldn't rule that out, but you never know. So AFC South's done. The AFC West. The Raiders made some moves. They signed Jason Witten to a contract. They signed Jeff Heath, and they signed one more ex-Cowboy today. La'el Collins, the tackle. So 3 ex-Cowboys, all with John Gruden and the Raiders, and then they reached an agreement with Corey Littleton, 3 years, $36 million. That was a good signing. And he was the 8th highest graded linebacker in 2019, Littleton. So Raiders making some moves. I think that their priorities are on defense, which Littleton will help them. Malik Collins will help them. A little secondary help will be good. They signed Marcus Mariota yesterday to back up Derek Carr. And the funny thing is that I remember John Gruden on the broadcast of the draft a few years ago said that Mariota was going to be the steal of the draft and the Titans were going to be great with him. Not so much. So maybe he's taking a chance and seeing if his statement from 5 years ago on ESPN is true a little bit, even though he has Mariota in a backup role. The Los Angeles Chargers. Obviously, they're waiting word on Tom Brady. Here's news here. Jim Trotter says that barring Brady changing his mind, the Chargers believe they're out on the Tom Brady sweepstakes. So, Jim Trotter's not Adam Schefter. But yeah, Trotter tweets, I've been saying for 2 days I believe the Chargers are the best fit for Brady, and I still believe that, but I'm told the Brady camp has led the Chargers to believe he's going to stay back east because of family considerations. # stay tuned. So maybe it's either the Dolphins or the Bucs, it looks like. So, Jim Trotter, all due respect to you, but you're not Adam Schefter, and need to hear pen to paper before somebody says that, because remember Garrett Cole wanted to play out west? Remember that rumor that he wanted to be back home out west? No, he ended up with the New York Yankees. So don't believe everything you hear. And Jim Trotter is obviously somebody that is good in the NFL media, but he's not Adam Schefter. I'm sorry. And pen hasn't come to paper yet. If they do lose out on Brady, maybe they go to Jameis Winston route or the Cam Newton route. So, should be very, very, very interesting. Brian Bulaga went to the Chargers on a 3-year, $30 million contract. Good signing. He'll help their offensive line. Him and Trey Turner there now. So maybe the Chargers still think they are in, regardless of what Jim Trotter said. So keep an eye on that. The Denver Broncos are an interesting team. They've made a couple signings. Graham Glass now 4 years, $44 million. A nice signing. He's somebody that had a career year last year. So it's a nice signing. He'll help their offensive line. They're another team that people are talking about for Brady and Cam. I don't see it. They're locked in on Drew Lock as they should be. I think that he has a chance to be the breakout star quarterback. I think the Denver Broncos do have some other needs on their team. Maybe interior D. They can use some help at wide receiver behind the kid from SMU. I'm blanking on his name right now. And the team that nobody's heard from yet, they're just sitting back and relaxing, enjoying their world championship, is the Kansas City Chiefs. Nobody has talked about the Chiefs yet in free agency. I think that they do have to make themselves moves if they really want to repeat, especially on the defensive side of the football. Chris Jones, they have to address that situation. Maybe they trade him and get picks for him, and they end up using the leftover cap room to extend Patrick Mahomes, which I think has been their plan this whole time, to make Patrick Mahomes the highest paid player in NFL history, as he should be. He's the reigning Super Bowl MVP, reigning Super Bowl champion, the MVP of the 2018 season. So I think the Chiefs are just focusing on doing the right courses to potentially pay Patrick Mahomes. So they got to address the Chris Jones situation. And they, I think, have some needs, especially in their secondary with the loss of Kendall Fuller. So they got to address that. So I think the Chiefs have some work to do. But I think that they need to wake up and do something. Because that's the one team I have not heard yet in any free agency discussions in terms of gaining any players. Now we'll switch conferences and go to the NFC. The NFC East, we'll start with the most popular team in that division. That's the Dallas Cowboys. Obviously, they franchise tagged Dak Prescott, and they re-signed Amari Cooper to a 5-year, $100 million contract. That's a stunning contract to me. I think they overpaid for Amari Cooper, but let's face it, they had to bring him back. You gave up a first-round pick for him. And to me, if you give up a first-round pick for somebody, then you got to keep them. Unless you trade them again for something else. So, a great move for the Cowboys by keeping their number one receiver. They have to be the favorites in the NFC East next season. They just have to replace Byron Jones in that secondary and address their need at safety. They're losing a couple offensive linemen. They got to address the depth there. Which I believe Jerry Jones in that front office will do. So I think the Dallas Cowboys have had a good start to their offseason. I wouldn't say great because they didn't bring back Byron Jones, but they couldn't afford it. They have to extend Dak Prescott. So good job on the Dallas Cowboys for bringing back Amari Cooper. So they lost a lot of guys to Oakland or to Vegas, such as Jason Witten, Malik Collins, and Jeff Heath. So that's that for the Cowboys. And the other big one is that they extended Blake Jarwin 3-year deal. I believe it was like $13.5 million. I think that's a steal. Jarwin had a nice year last year at the Cowboys. He should be their starting tight end. He was their best tight end last year, period. So I think that was a smart move by the Dallas Cowboys. The Philadelphia Eagles, in my mind, are under a lot of pressure to do some things. They did not pick up the option on Malcolm Jenkins, so he's a free agent. So they got to replace him. And then they agreed to a 2-year deal with Ronnie McLeod. McLeod's a nice player, but he's not as good as Malcolm Jenkins. So maybe it'll work out. Maybe it won't. I think that the Eagles have to make some more moves. Some wide receiver depth would be nice. I think that they should be in play for Emmanuel Sanders or any of those trade candidates that are wide receivers as well. A lot of people were killing them for not trading for DeAndre Hopkins yesterday, which that would have been a good fit. I think that that would have put them right there with Dallas. They had one more signing yesterday. I'm trying to figure out who that was. Javon Hargrave, 2-year deal. So him and Fletcher Cox will make a nice duo up front there in Philadelphia. So Ronnie McClay stays with the Eagles. Malcolm Jenkins gone. Jordan Howard gone to the Dolphins. Halapute Viati and Kamo Grugier-Hill all out. Jalen Mills comes back. Nate Sudfeld, the backup QB, is back. And then Hassan Ridgeway is back as well for the Philadelphia Eagles. The New York Giants made a lot of moves yesterday and today. They signed James Bradbury to a 3-year deal, $45 million. I think this was their best signing so far of the period. They needed a solid corner, and they landed one here with Bradbury, who's done a good job on all the better receivers in the league, like Julio Jones and DeAndre Hopkins, Odell, etc. So a very underrated cornerback ends up with the Giants, and he'll certainly help that secondary and help those young kids like DeAndre Baker grow as players. Blake Martinez also signed with the Giants. 3 years, $30 million. Seems like the popular contract that's been given out in free agency so far. Martinez is a good player, but a flawed player. A lot of people are saying that this is going to be Alec Ogletree 2.0. I think he's a better player than Alec Ogletree, but he's somebody that's liability is covering. So I think the Giants are clearly aiming for the draft to find that guy. Hint, Isaiah Simmons is that guy. So another Giant move, Cody Core. He was the ace of their special teams last year. I'm sure Joe Judge is going to love this kid. Red Ellison retires, so the new backup tight end is Levine Toledo, 2 years, $6.2 million. And they ended up giving another former Green Bay Packer a deal. Kyler Frackle, 1 year, $4.6 million. He's just a backup player, making backup kind of money. So that's kind of not that important of a signing. Redskins, I don't get why they're in the Cam Newton rumors. They're plus 340. So I thought that was absolutely ridiculous. Because I think that they still believe in Dwayne Haskins and want to draft Chase Young at number 2. But I think it's suspicious to me why you keep hearing these rumors that they might draft Tua. And Tua is 2-1 to go number 2 overall, unless if they might trade down, which would be smart for the Redskins. They have a lot of holes. They're probably still the worst team in the NFC East. I think the Giants, with a couple of their signings, have moved ahead of the Redskins in the pecking order in the NFC East. So I'm going to say the Redskins are the worst team in the division still. Thomas Davis is going to the Redskins, returning with his old coach, Ron Rivera, the longtime Panther. So he'll help them from a leadership standpoint. And it's funny, the Redskins actually offered Amari Cooper enough money to make him the league's highest paid wide receiver. So that's crazy, and that's why Dallas ponied up. And you heard Adam Schefter say that on ESPN last night. So the Redskins signed Thomas Davis. That's their move so far. The Chicago Bears made a big splash today, signing Robert Quinaway from the Dallas Cowboys. 5 years, $70 million. I think that is a nuts signing. Absolutely nuts. Robert Quinn had a good year in Dallas, and he turned it into that big of a contract. I don't love it for the Bears. They have a good defense anyway. So, he'll help them, but I'm just surprised that they did it. And then they got rid of Leonard Floyd, who was one of the bigger draft busts over the last couple years and really didn't live up to the hype with the Bears. So the big Bears move is Robert Quinn, 5 years, $70 million, and now we wait and see if they get a quarterback to challenge Mitch Trubisky a little bit. The Minnesota Vikings, they really haven't done much yet. A lot of their old players are going elsewhere. They have some cap space, so I'm interested to see what they do. They need a corner. They need interior defense and an offensive line. So the Vikings obviously traded away Stephon Diggs and got a lot back. I think the Vikings did a nice job getting value for one of the more underrated receivers in the league. So that clears some cap space. And then the releasing of Linval Joseph and Xavier Rhodes clears cap room. And then they went out and extended Kirk Cousins for 2 more years. That surprised me a little bit. He's somebody that's won one playoff game with the Vikings. Obviously, last year, that overtime game against the Saints in New Orleans. Somebody that is one of the more polarizing quarterbacks in the league from a reputation standpoint. He still has a good roster around him, but I just think the Vikings have created more holes in their rosters with the moves, the subtraction of good players. So I'm interested to see what they do. They have a lot of work to do in my mind, but I still look at them as probably the favorites in that division because Green Bay lost a couple pieces on defense and Aaron Rodgers really isn't getting much younger, and I don't love their wide receiver core outside of Davante Adams. So I still look at the Vikings as the favorites in that division, but very slim favorites at least. So I think that the Vikings still have some work to do. The Green Bay Packers, obviously, lost some players. They lost the 2 linebackers to the Giants, and they lost Brian Bulaga to the Chargers. So those are all big losses. And then Jimmy Graham, I really don't consider that big of a loss because he's somebody that, to me, is washed up. By the way, terrible signing for the Bears, signing Jimmy Graham to a 2-year, $26 million deal. That guy is washed. Absolutely washed. He was not good with Green Bay. He wasn't that great in Seattle. He hasn't been good since he was with Drew Brees in New Orleans. So I think that was the worst signing of the offseason. Obviously, the worst move of the offseason was obviously Houston not getting the right value for Hopkins. But the one move Green Bay made was signing Christian Kirksey to a 2-year, $16 million deal. He will replace the production by Blake Martinez in their linebacking core. So not a terrible signing by the Green Bay Packers. The Detroit Lions made some moves. They signed Jamie Collins yesterday. I believe that was another 3 years, $30 million deal. The Lions just love signing Patriot players. Danny Amendola and now Jamie Collins. So Matt Patricia is kind of making Detroit Patriots Midwest a little bit. So Ian Rappaport just now. To add to Jim Trotter's NFL report on Tom Brady and the Chargers, family considerations were a huge part of Brady's looming decision, more so than Shima personnel. Tampa is the only other known Sooner, is closer to New England, that same time zone. So it looks like that he's going to end up with an East Coast team, and it'll probably be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So another signing that just went down, the Jets are signing Connor McGovern. Good signing. Big offensive line upgrade that they need. And then the other signing that just broke, Sean Lee back to the Cowboys on a 1-year, $4.5 million deal. Sean Lee is not the same player as he used to be. He's still helpful to the Cowboys from a leadership standpoint. The players love him there, so it shouldn't be a surprise that he went back there. And I didn't even include him in my predictions list. I would have absolutely predicted him back to the Cowboys, so that was a easy call here. The NFC South, Drew Brees back to the Saints, 2 years, 25 or 2 years, $50 million. So he took less money so the Saints could help build their team. I'm sorry, but if Tampa gets Brady, they're not the division favorites anymore. Tampa is. So New Orleans better hope that Brady doesn't go to Tampa, because Tampa right now is a better team than New Orleans if Brady is on Tampa. So the Saints had to bring back Drew Brees, though. Like, I get it. He is the franchise. And that was very important to them. They know they wanted to do that. Atlanta made the trade for Hayden Hurst yesterday for a second-round pick. So he replaces Austin Hooper, and that's an upside play for Atlanta. I like it, but obviously the Ravens had to get rid of one of their tight ends because they have 3 of them, and they're all good in my mind. So Hayden Hurst, a good upside play for Atlanta. Tampa, we're waiting on Tom Brady. And then obviously if he does not choose them, then maybe they'll re-sign Jameis Winston. And the other rumor is that Antonio Brown's going to go where Tom Brady goes. So maybe Antonio Brown will be a member of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as well. And then the Carolina Panthers made news today. They are going to sign Teddy Bridgewater to a 3-year, $60 million contract. That is a massive overpay in my mind. Teddy Bridgewater is a backup quarterback, not a starting quarterback in this league. I think he's one of the more overrated QBs in the league, only because, to me, he only had one good season with the Vikings, and that was obviously the year where he led them to the postseason, and they lost that doink game that they missed the field goal at the end of the game, and the Seahawks won. Low-scoring game on a Sunday afternoon. That was his only playoff appearance, and he didn't win that game. It wasn't his fault. That was the kicker's fault. Bridgewater led them down the field, and the kicker missed a field goal. Kind of reminiscent of Trubisky a little bit, right? Yeah. So, and I'm not saying that Bridgewater is worse than Trubisky or he is Mitch Trubisky. He's probably better than Mitch Trubisky, but he's just not worth that contract. That was a terrible move by the Panthers, and quite frankly, they should have either kept Cam Newton or they should have looked at these quarterbacks in this draft, which they might still do. And this brings me to my question, what's that for Cam Newton? Does he go to the Chargers? Does he go to the Bucks if they don't sign Brady? Does he go to New England? That would be a good fit for Cam. So that should be very interesting. And speaking of the Panthers, they just re-signed Trey Boston on a 3-year, $18 million deal. So good veteran going to stay with the Panthers in that secondary with Matt Rule there now. Last division to go, the NFC West. The Rams really haven't done much. They lost a couple big pieces, Littleton and Michael Bachers. They declined to pick up the option on Nicole Rodney Coleman, so he's a free agent. So the Rams, to me, have taken a step back, so they're not in a good spot right now for free agency. And obviously they have a lot of money tied up with Jared Goff and all the other guys they paid. Aaron Donald, and they paid somebody else. Was it Brandon Cooks? I believe it was Brandon Cooks. Still a nice roster, a lot of big names on it, but that's a team that really has taken a step back with a couple free agent losses. The San Francisco 49ers, there were some rumors about Brady potentially going there and New England trading for Garoppolo. That would have been funny. Probably the funniest thing of the year. Garoppolo back with New England and Brady in San Francisco. Obviously, the 49ers paid Eric Armstead yesterday. 5 years, $90 million. They gave Jimmy Ward 3 years, $28.5 million. So good deal there. He had a good year last year. And they are bringing back defensive end Ronald Blair on a 1-year deal. So the 49ers, to me, are still a good football team. They should be the favorites in that division. But meanwhile, everybody's darling in that division is the Arizona Cardinals because they just went out and traded for DeAndre Hopkins and didn't give up much. They signed Jordan Phillips, 3 years, $30 million. So that is a nice signing for them. And Kyler Murray's going to be everybody's darling pick to win the MVP next year with the addition of Hopkins, and maybe they bring back Kenyon Drake. They got the transition tag on him, but that's really not official yet, that he's definitely going to be playing for the Cardinals next year. They can use an upgraded tight end. Maybe they'll look at the draft for that. Offensive line needs to be addressed for the Cardinals. So the Cardinals still have things to do. Like, I wouldn't declare them a playoff team yet, but they really have some work to do in this offseason, despite trading for DeAndre Hopkins. And last but not least, the Seattle Seahawks. That's a team I have not discussed yet. They signed Greg Olsen. Greg Olsen, somebody that was a longtime Carolina Panther, and then they got rid of him. He'll be a nice veteran to help out that team, but he's really not that great of a player anymore. They re-signed Jerron Reed, 2 years, $23 million. And then they re-signed Luke Wilson, the other tight end. So they really have been very quiet so far, the Seattle Seahawks. So I'm very interested to see what they do in free agency. Now we're going to talk a little coronavirus. It was reported via the Nets Twitter account that 4 players tested positive for the coronavirus, and then Shams reported that Kevin Durant was among one of the 4. That is crazy. Get well soon, Kevin Durant. Rough year for him. Obviously, he ruptured the Achilles, and he leaves the Warriors, and he goes to Brooklyn, and then he hasn't played the whole year. Now the league's on suspension, and now he gets coronavirus. I feel for Kevin Durant. I hope he comes back and is at least close to the same player he was, because he's just such a joy to watch. And I'm interested to see who the other Nets players are that have the coronavirus. Another Yankees minor leaguer has coronavirus. It was broken by John Heyman this morning. The player has not been revealed yet, but he obviously was around the other Yankees player or minor league player that had the coronavirus as well. So I won't be shocked if more comes out of this, and if other Yankees minor leaguers have it, or other minor league baseball or even major league baseball players have it, but it just hasn't been leaked to the media yet. And one more coronavirus postponement, the PGA Championship, which was supposed to be around May 11th. They postponed that. That's to be determined when that will be. So that is obviously a big deal for golf. Obviously, it was announced a couple days ago that the Masters was getting postponed. So a lot of situations are in flux right now, and I'll be back tomorrow. I'm going to do my top 10 movies list from 2019, and I'm going to talk about any other moves that happen between now and the next time I record a show. And we'll preview tomorrow night's episodes of The Masked Singer and Lego Masters as well. I hope you guys have a great day, everybody.